Hello, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Ethan Lazaro, and my major is computer science. I worked alongside Dr. Benjamin Fuller from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, and today I wanted to present my research titled Randomness Assessment in Physical Hardware. Physical hardware is essential for protecting valuable data. They are used to protect different types of identification and provide authentication, but as of recently, they are becoming increasingly susceptible to machine learning attacks. Statistical tests can be used to measure the security of devices but require extensive knowledge of statistics to understand. The purpose of my research is to learn how to make hardware resistant to machine learning attacks. My research aim is to create a single metric that can be used to properly express the security of these devices. The devices I study to create the metric are called Physical Unclonable Functions. A physical unclonable function, or PUF, are physical devices that are used for public key encryption and device authentication. These devices create a digital fingerprint given an input and output a unique bit string, a sentence of ones and zeros. There are many different types of PUFs, but the two that I studied in particular are the optical and arbiter PUF models. An optical PUF can be described very similarly to a flashlight and dirty window analogy. A flashlight is directed at a window, and the resulting image is reflected on a wall. An optical PUF, as shown in Figure 1, uses a laser to pass through a glass window with shards called a token that contorts the laser to create an image on a surface. From there, the image is recorded, and by using a technique called numerical integration, is transformed from an image into a bit string that can be communicated to computers. Each different token provides the device with a different image and thereby a different bit string. An arbiter PUF, as shown in Figure 2, can be described as a physical device that contains wires and based on the input sends electrical pulses that race to the other end of the device. The arbiter PUF is given an input called a challenge and the resulting bit string is called a response. Depending on which pulse makes it to the receiving end will decide the output PUF's response. The difference of each bit string can be associated with the randomness involved in the bit string, which is reflective of the level of security of the device. The pipeline I designed starts with a program taking input for the length of challenges, number of challenges, and number of PUFs to simulate. Then it initializes a Python library called PyPUF to simulate the PUF devices. Next, the program initializes a testing suite which can be described as software that contains statistical tests to analyze the responses from the PUFs. Next, the program initializes a machine learning model called linear regression to quantitatively identify the impact the variables have on the statistical test values. The model then plots a series of points on a graph and tries to determine a best fit for the data provided. Finally, the program graphs the values to illustrate the correlation between the variables and the statistical test values. In my results section, my data findings illustrate the impact the input size of the variables have on the statistical value. The weight of the impact is shown in the linear coefficients column. The zero value coefficients show that regardless of the input size from the variable, the value will remain the same. Furthermore, I would expect the increasing number of PUFs in a system to illustrate a more random and secure system because adding more PUFs makes the system more complex and harder to attack. In addition, I would also expect increasing the number of challenges to reduce the randomness and security of these devices because we are learning the underlying behavior of the system based on the PUF's responses. Finally, I expect the challenge length will have a negligible effect on the randomness and security of a PUF because regardless of the length of the challenge, if an attacker is able to predict the next value, then the data being transmitted can be easily exploited. My future goals related to this research project include researching other types of physical unclonable functions and defining similar metrics to measure security, and understanding how to make these devices resistant to quantum computers. I would like to thank Professor Fuller for his mentorship and oversight of the project. I would also like to extend gratitude to my graduate student mentor, Sohaib Ahmad, for his mentorship. Finally, I would like to also thank the McNair Scholars Program for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Thank you for listening.